I never thought a piece of paper could break a family. But when I saw my father's will, I realized I had never really had a family to begin with. I'm 28 years old now, but this story started when I was 19. Back then, I still believed my dad loved me. He wasn't a perfect father, but he wasn't cruel either. Or at least, I thought so. My parents divorced when I was 7. My mom left with nothing but a suitcase, and me. My dad stayed in the big house, kept the business, kept the cars, kept everything. He used to tell me, "You'll always be my little girl." But after the divorce, his words became rarer. His calls became shorter. His visits became excuses. When I turned 18, he invited me to dinner. I thought it was a birthday surprise. Instead, he sat me down in a fancy restaurant and said, "I need to talk to you about something important." He slid a folder across the table. Inside was a copy of his will. At first, I thought he was being responsible, planning for the future, making sure everything was organized. Then I saw the names: my stepmother, her son, her daughter, and nothing else. No mention of me. Not a single line. I laughed nervously and said, "Is this a joke?" He didn't laugh back. "This is how things are," he said calmly, sipping his wine. "You're independent. You'll make your own way." I stared at him. "I'm your daughter." He shrugged. "You'll survive? They need it more." I felt something inside me crack. He explained that his stepkids had been with him every day, that they were his real family now. He said I was too emotional, too distant, too much like my mother. "You'll understand when you're older," he said. But I didn't understand. I just nodded, paid my half of the bill, and walked out. That night, I cried until my chest hurt. Not because of money, but because I finally realized I wasn't important to him anymore. So I cut him off. I stopped calling. I stopped visiting. I stopped wishing him happy birthday. He didn't notice. Years passed. I worked 2 jobs while studying nursing. I lived in a tiny apartment with thin walls and a broken heater. My mom helped when she could, but she had her own struggles. Meanwhile, I saw my dad on social media. Vacations, new cars, family dinners with his stepkids. He looked happy. I felt invisible. When I graduated, I didn't invite him. When I got my first real job, I didn't tell him. When I moved to a better apartment, I didn't send him the address. He didn't ask. Then, 3 years ago, everything changed. It started with a call from an unknown number. "Is this Emily?" a man asked. "Yes, this is Mark Johnson. I'm calling regarding your father." I almost hung up. "He's in the hospital," the man continued. "He listed you as an emergency contact." I laughed bitterly. Emergency contact. After cutting me out of his will. But I went anyway. When I walked into his hospital room, he looked smaller. Older. Weaker. He smiled when he saw me. "There you are, sweetheart." I stood near the door, unsure what to say. His wife and stepkids weren't there. "They're busy," he explained quickly. He tried to joke, but his hands were shaking. "I just wanted to see you," he said. I asked what happened. He said it was stress. Overwork. Minor heart issue. But when the doctor left, he grabbed my hand. "Emily, I need to tell you something." I already knew it wasn't going to be good. "My business. It's not doing well." I nodded. "Businesses fail. I made some bad investments," he continued. "And some people took advantage of me." I didn't feel sorry. I felt numb. He looked at me with wet eyes. I might lose everything. I didn't know what to say. Then he whispered, "I need help." I pulled my hand away. "You have your family," I said. He looked down. They left. That was the moment I felt something strange. Not happiness, not sadness. Shock. He told me his stepkids moved away when money problems started. His wife filed for divorce and demanded half of what was left. His friends stopped answering his calls. "You're all I have," he said softly. I thought about the will, the dinner, his calm voice telling me I'd survive on my own. I almost walked out, but I didn't. Because no matter how much he hurt me, he was still my dad. So I helped him fill out paperwork. I talked to doctors. I brought him food, but I didn't give him money. He didn't ask. Not yet. A month later, he called me crying. "They're taking the house," he said. "The same house I grew up in. The house he kept after the divorce. They're auctioning everything," he said. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me felt justice. Part of me felt grief. Then he said it. "Can I stay with you for a while?" My heart stopped. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. I barely had space for myself, but he sounded desperate. "I just need some time," he said. "Until I figure things out." I said yes. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted closure. Maybe I wanted to see him vulnerable. Maybe I wanted him to finally need me. He moved in 2 weeks later with 2 suitcases. The man who once owned 3 houses now slept on my couch. At first, he was polite. He thanked me for everything. He cooked dinner sometimes, but then his true personality came back. He criticized my apartment. He complained about my job. He said I should help him financially because he gave me life. One night, he sat me down and said, "I think you should take a loan." I laughed. "For what?" "For me," he said. I stared at him. "You owe me," he added. That sentence broke something inside me. I reminded him about the will, about how he chose his stepkids over me. He waved his hand. "That was business," he said. "This is family." I realized he only remembered I was family when he needed something. I told him no. He didn't speak to me for a week after that. Then one night, I came home and found him sitting at the kitchen table with papers spread out. "My lawyer contacted me," he said quietly. I froze. "What lawyer?" He looked at me with a strange expression. "The one who handled my will." My stomach dropped. He slid the papers toward me. "I want to change it." I didn't say anything. He cleared his throat. "I want to include you." I looked at him. "Why now?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just said, "You're the only one who stayed." I didn't know whether to feel angry or relieved. I signed nothing. I said nothing, because something in his eyes felt off. And that's when I found out the real reason he came back into my life. And then he said something that stopped me cold. "I don't want to include you in the will, because I realized it doesn't mean anything. You don't care about money, do you? But I need you. I just need you to be here. To not leave me alone." I stared at him, trying to process what he had just said. It was a strange, unsettling feeling, seeing a man who had once rejected me, now completely dependent on me, and realizing that I held his life, in a way, in my hands. Anger, resentment, and disbelief all tangled together inside me. "You do understand what you're saying?" I asked softly. He nodded, eyes downcast. I know I've been cruel, but right now, I don't have anyone else." I turned to the window, biting back tears. Inside, emotions warred for dominance. Fury, grief, a little glimmer of pity. Relief even, that he finally admitted he was wrong. But that relief was bitter, tainted. It was too late for apologies to undo years of absence. The days turned into weeks. He stayed at my apartment, recovering from his illness and the financial collapse. Slowly, I noticed the cracks in his facade begin to widen. He complained about every little expense, criticized my apartment, questioned my choices. Sometimes, he would sit for hours, staring at his empty bank accounts, muttering that everything is gone and I don't know how to recover. But the worst part was the subtle shift. I could feel it. He was testing me, measuring my patience, my tolerance, my willingness to forgive. One evening, as I was cooking dinner, he approached with a serious expression. "Emily, I've been thinking, maybe we should talk about the future. You understand, don't you, that if I lose everything, I might need support?" I froze. My mind screamed. Support? Or control? I remembered every year of being ignored, every achievement accomplished without him, every birthday he skipped. "No," I said firmly. "I am not your safety net. You chose not to be part of my life, and now I choose what's best for me." He fell silent, and for a brief moment, I saw something I had never seen before in him. Fear. Fear of losing me again, this time for good. Weeks passed. We found an uneasy rhythm. Sometimes we laughed at little absurdities, small reminders of the father I used to know. But mostly, we clashed. He complained, I argued. He tried to manipulate, I resisted. And yet, slowly, a subtle change came over him. He started sharing pieces of his life I'd never heard before, decisions he made to exclude me, the logic he used to justify it, and the regret that had built quietly, invisibly, inside him. I listened, trying to discern the truth from excuses. One evening, he spoke softly, almost like confessing a crime. "You know, I thought that even if you left, if you were independent, you'd always come back. But I was wrong. You walked away, and I realized I'd lost everything that truly mattered." I said nothing. My heart ached, but I had learned long ago that feeling pain doesn't always mean forgiveness. Then the call came. It was his ex-wife. "Are you still keeping him there?" she asked coldly. "You're taking his comfort, his time. Give him back." He hung up, eyes brimming with tears. They want everything back. But I can't go back there. I won't. In that moment, I understood. He had lost everything except me. And that didn't make him good. It made him vulnerable. Vulnerability was something he had never allowed himself to show when I was a child. And then, the unthinkable happened. He started to lean on me, not as a father, not as the man who had abandoned me, but as someone desperately seeking validation, attention, and care. And it pressed down on me, heavy and suffocating. "Emily," he said one night, sitting on my couch, voice trembling, "I know I broke so many things. Our family, you. But can you stay? Just for a little while? Until I can figure things out? I looked at him. One part of me wanted to scream, "No, you don't deserve a second chance." Another part wanted to close my eyes and just hold him, the man I had longed for as a child. I froze, and in that frozen moment I realized this wasn't about money or a will or property. It was about us, about a thread that had always connected us, invisible and fragile since my earliest memories. Before I could respond, the phone rang. I picked it up. A woman's voice, professional and brisk, spoke. "We are calling regarding your father and his will. He wishes to make changes. But there is a complication," and in that instant, I realized our story was far from over. I felt a chill run down my spine. "Complication?" I repeated. The woman's voice was calm, almost too calm. "Your father has attempted to change his will, but there is a legal obstacle. A clause prevents modifications unless certain conditions are met, and frankly, your father's recent actions may complicate things further." My heart pounded. I glanced at him. He looked nervous, pale, and smaller than ever. That frail, desperate man I had taken in was still the same man who had abandoned me years ago. Yet now, somehow, he seemed entirely exposed. "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means, Emily, your father needs your consent, and he needs to prove that you have a real relationship. Otherwise, the will may be challenged, or even nullified." He looked at me with pleading eyes. I just want to make things right. I made so many mistakes. I could feel every old wound open again. All the years I had spent building a life without him, all the birthdays, graduations, moments I wished he had been there, they rushed back. "You chose stepkids over me," I said quietly, voice trembling. "You told me I wasn't part of this family, and now you expect me to. What? Forgive you? Fix this for you?" He nodded. "I know I don't deserve it. I don't. But I'm asking. Just please, don't let everything I've done destroy what's left of us." I didn't answer immediately. I wanted to scream, cry, and run all at once. But slowly, I realized that even after all he had done, he was still my father. And maybe part of me wanted him to need me. I sighed. "Fine," I said. "We'll do it. But on my terms. I'm not giving you anything. No money, no favors. You're going to earn my trust, if that's even possible." He nodded, relief flooding his face. "I'll do anything. Anything." Over the next few weeks, we worked together. I went with him to the lawyer, signed documents, and helped him navigate the confusing, cold legal system. I made him sit through meetings, learn about his finances, face his mistakes. He hated it, sometimes grumbled, but he complied. And in the process, something shifted. Slowly, he began to understand me, not just as his daughter, but as a person who had survived on her own, who had built a life without him. I saw glimpses of pride in his eyes, not for himself, but for me. One evening, after a particularly long day at the lawyer's office, he turned to me. "Emily, I'm sorry. For everything. For every year I ignored you. Every word I said that hurt you. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know I see you now. Truly." I studied him. His eyes were sincere, full of regret, but also of something I hadn't expected. Humility. And in that moment, I understood that maybe this was the real legacy he could leave me. Not money, not property, but recognition, truth, and honesty. I nodded slowly. "It's a start," I said. Finally, the legal process ended. The will was amended. My name was included. The house, the accounts, the remainder of his estate. He made it clear that I would inherit nothing more than what was rightfully mine, but it didn't matter. The act itself, the acknowledgement, was enough. A month later, he moved out. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He had learned something vital. He couldn't force a relationship. It had to be earned. And for the first time, he realized that relationships weren't about possession or obligation. They were about care, respect, and presence. When he left, we didn't hug. We didn't cry. But we smiled. And in that quiet, unspoken way, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Closure. I went back to my small apartment, to my quiet life. I continued my nursing career, my routines, my independence. But sometimes, when I walked past my old father's chair at the kitchen table, I smiled. Not out of joy, not out of relief, but out of understanding. He had broken our family once. He had chosen stepkids over me, words over love. But in the end, life had a strange way of teaching lessons. He came back, not for money, not for convenience, but because he realized he had nothing without the people who truly mattered. And I survived. Stronger, wiser, and unafraid. I never needed the will to define my worth. I never needed him to choose me for his possessions. I was enough. I had always been enough. And as I closed the door to my apartment that night, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace.